Hello, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to Sacred Circle. Over the past two gatherings, we've explored fear as a teacher and presence as a path. And I just lost light. I apologize for that. And today we turn inward to a conversation that touches us every single day: the double edged power of the mind, or more specifically, the dialogue between our ego mind versus our soul mind. Before we journey, let's complete the grounding check in on the reflection sheet that is listed in the description as well as the chat. If you haven't downloaded it yet, you may do so now, and it is an instant download, no email required. Today's grounding check in asks, how do I feel arriving in this circle? Calm, restless, curious, guarded, open, or use the other space to add a feeling not listed. No judgment, simply notice. And as we move through today's discussion, be sure to notate the theme, notes, and integration cues for reference later. Now I invite you to close your eyes or soften your gaze if it feels comfortable. Place your hands gently in your lap. Take a slow breath in, and on the exhale, imagine letting go of the noise of the day. With the next inhale, imagine breathing into your heart space, connecting to something deeper, quieter, wiser. Say silently, I invite my soul to speak clearly. I invite my mind to listen openly. I invite my soul to speak clearly. I invite my mind to listen openly. When you are ready, open your eyes and we'll begin this circle's discussion. The ego mind and the soul mind both have a role in our lives. The challenge is not eliminating the ego, but understanding how to align it with the deeper wisdom of the soul. Let's explore the difference and discover how to let the soul lead. We begin by understanding what is the ego mind. The ego mind is the voice of self-protection. It is the part of us that wants to keep us safe, to preserve our perceived identity, to avoid embarrassment or failure. The ego is not bad, it is simply conditioned. It runs on past experiences, fears, familiar or cultural expectations. Ego asks, what will others think? How do I compare? What if I fail? When overextended, the ego mind limits us. It clings to old stories, keeps us in survival mode, and confuses safety with stagnation. So, what is the soul mind? The soul mind is expansive. It is rooted in presence, connection, and inner truth. The soul mind sees beyond fear or comparison. Soul asks, what aligns with love? What feels true to essence? What expands me? From an Akashic perspective, the soul mind is timeless. It remembers who we are beyond this single lifetime. From a scientific perspective, we might liken it to states of flow, creativity, and deep calm, where the nervous system is regulated and we feel connected to something larger than ourselves. How do the ego mind and soul mind interact? I'll share this very brief but very real conversation between my soul mind and ego mind as an example. To preface this, I had asked the universe for something, and maybe 5 or 6 weeks later, I'm standing having a conversation with, we'll call them Paris, Paris and I are having a conversation, and London walks through the space we're in. Upon noticing London, the conversation between my soul mind and ego mind begins. Go talk to them. Why? I just spoke to them yesterday. It hasn't been 24 hours. What would I even talk about? Go talk to them. But what would I go talk to them? I'll pause the conversation there and say, I gave up the argument mostly due to intuition, or as many like to call it, gut instinct. I told Paris I'd talk to them later and walked over to where I thought London would be, where honestly my body was literally feeling pulled to go. The conversation picked back up with, oh, they're talking to someone else. I'll come back later. Wait. But they're with someone and who knows how long they'll be. I don't want to stand here looking crazy. Wait. I'll end the conversation there and say, I ended up pulling out my phone and I waited. It didn't take long before London was free and we began our conversation. And I'm very happy to say it ended with me being offered exactly what I had asked the universe for. However, looking back, I can see exactly where, excuse me, I can see exactly where ego almost talked me out of what I was being offered or what I actually wanted out of fear. Gratefully, I allowed soul to lead. So, listening to that brief conversation, I'm sure you noticed the difference between ego mind speaking and soul mind speaking. The ego is loud, quick, and most often, fear based. The soul is quiet, spacious, and steady. Most of us default to ego because it shouts, it's the loudest, while the soul almost whispers. But remember, the work is not to destroy the ego, but to shift its role. The ego can be a very helpful team member, but it makes a poor leader. When the soul leads, the ego can relax, contributing its practicality and caution in balance instead of control. Here are a few ego mind versus soul mind thought patterns. Ego says something like, don't speak up, you'll embarrass yourself. Whereas soul would say, your voice matters, speak with love and truth. Ego says, you're not ready. Soul would say, you were born ready for this step. Growth happens in the doing. Ego says, you'll never be enough. Soul says, you are already whole. Do any of these thoughts resonate or sound familiar? I can say I have experienced them all at one point or another. So, as we begin to notice the difference between our ego and our soul minds, here are 4 practical ways to shift from ego to soul. 1, pause and notice. When fear or comparison arises, simply say, that is my ego speaking. Naming it softens its hold. And 2, ask the soul. Bring the question inward. What would my soul say about this? The answer is usually calmer, simpler, and more aligned. 3, practice presence. Meditation, journaling, being in nature, even a simple breath work. All of these quiet the noise of the ego so the soul's whisper can be heard. And 4, anchor in truth. Write a mantra or an affirmation that comes from your soul. Repeat it when ego gets loud. An example mantra could be, I am whole. A simple reminder that you are already whole and already worthy. I invite you to reflect in your journal or inwardly on the following 5 prompts. Whatever arises, allow it to do so without judgment. Prompt 1. What situations most often trigger my ego mind where I compare, doubt, or self protect? What situations most often trigger my ego mind where I compare, doubt, or self protect? Prompt 2. How does my ego try to keep me safe? What is its intention, even if misguided? How does my ego try to keep me safe? What is its intention, even if misguided? Prompt 3. When I quiet down, what messages do I hear from my soul mind? When I quiet down, what messages do I hear from my soul mind? Prompt 4. How can I create more space in my daily life to listen for my soul's voice? How can I create more space in my daily life to listen for my soul's voice? And prompt 5. If my soul were to give me one piece of advice right now, what would it be? If my soul were to give me one piece of advice right now, what would it be? Here's a way to anchor your reflections. Once you complete them, read them through again and circle one word or phrase from your reflections that feels like a soul message. Allow that to be your anchor for the next 2 weeks. The ego mind will always be a part of our human experience. But when we allow the soul to lead, the ego can step back into its rightful role as a protector, not a prison. Let's anchor a mantra together. You can repeat it silently or aloud, and even write it down and use it at another time or as often as you would like. I honor my ego's voice. I choose my soul's wisdom. I lead with truth, love, and presence. I'll repeat. I honor my ego's voice. I choose my soul's wisdom. I lead with truth, love, and presence. As we prepare to close, let's open your reflection sheet and complete the closing check in, which asks, how do I feel leaving this circle? Grounded, clear, soul led, peaceful, inspired, or use the other space to note a feeling not listed. Notice any difference in your opening versus closing check in, and be sure to note in your journal. And I invite you to share with me in the comments if there was anything in particular that resonated with you from today's discussion, any insights or aha moments. And remember, your shares could be the light on someone else's path. Thank you for being here in this sacred circle. Our next gathering will be on October 21st, where we will explore finding perfection in the imperfect. Finding perfection in the imperfect. Until then, may your soul's voice guide your journey. With love and light, I am Terra.